asleep for the first half. You're probably making faces and saying, I've heard all of this before. As a prelude, the Quran says, O you who believe, do not die save as Muslims. Now here, the reader is not attentive to the words of the Quran. On the one hand, the Quran is using the word faith, O faithful ones. On the other hand, it's using the word Islam. Do not die save as a Muslim. This in itself is indicative of a huge distinction that is there within Islam and faith, which we have failed to understand altogether. Again, the Quran says, O you who believe, believe. O faithful, bring faith. What this seems to suggest is that the notion of faithful, when it was addressing the community that was around the Prophet Muhammad in Medina, meant merely the people who were subscribing to his message formalistically. O you who believe, believe. Now that you're within the formal boundaries of Islam, now bring real faith in God. Now that you subscribe to the message that this man is giving, now inwardly surrender, become Muslims. Here we see that the word faithful in the Quran is not used by and large in the way in which the scholars interpret it, by meaning a stage beyond Islam. Normally we say Islam comes first and then faith comes after. According to the verse of Surah Hujarat, that when the Arab come to you and they say, we profess faith in you, say no. Say that we have embraced Islam. At that point, towards the end of the prophetic mission, the word Islam was replacing the word faith. What happens here is, as I'm saying, this is a brief prelude, that when the Prophet of Islam came to Medina, the people who were following him were known as the faithful. It did not mean that these people had internalized the message, or indeed that they had given themselves over to God in faith. It merely meant a group of people who were adhering to this ideology at the face of it. At the time in Medina, the word Islam meant real surrender to God, an inward state of yielding to God. Towards the end of the prophetic missionary role, the word faith began to mean somebody who had internalized the formalistic message that the Quran was giving. That is the meaning of faith at that point. And the word Islam comes to mean the corpus of the teachings that the Prophet Muhammad had given to them. So today the word Islam means what it meant in the latter part of the Medinian sort of preaching of the Prophet. A system of do's and don'ts, spirituality, theology, and morality. It's a formalistic understanding of faith. And today, the word faith means somebody who has gone beyond the prescriptions and internalized it and formed a bond, an intimate connection with those beliefs and with God. Similarly, when we go to the Meccan period, the Jews and the Christians were also addressed as the faithful. Faithful, not as faithful in the people who believed within the formalistic teachings of Islam, but faithful as people who have surrendered to God. If you look at the word Islam, therefore, it is there within the Medinian and the Meccan surahs. The word faithful is there as well, but the way in which both are being used are very, very different. Now with that prelude, and we'll come back to this towards the end, we go to an existential principle. What is an existential principle? Existential principles are those things that fall in line with the property of existence. The fundamental principle of existence is that existence always elaborates itself, comes to the fullness of its own self. Look at anything in this realm of our existence. When I say this realm of our existence, what I mean is whatever we have conceived so far of the physical universe, 3 dimensions, if you want to call it 3-dimensional universe, with extension of matter and space, or 5 dimensions with the addition of space and time. Or 4 dimensions, space and time is known as one and the same thing. But in the universe that we observe, we existing, we think within, in that universe, existence displays merely one property, and that is of growth. In that process of growth, existence displays 2 things. A very negational property. It is never still at any point. It always breaks its boundaries. Think about this carefully. Do you find anything in the world that we observe, or the world of God as we know it, within the dimensions in which we exist, anything defying the principle of motion? Everything is on the move. There are no 2 instances in which anything is stagnant or stable. If you look at the molecular structure of the table, it is dynamic. But the table in itself that appears to be so still, through the passage of time, is moving back to dust, or whatever it's moving towards. A seed, as soon as it's buried within the earth, begins to sprout if the physical conditions are right. A fertilized ovum begins its unidirectional journey towards growth. In that way, find me one thing that is defying this salient property or fundamental property of nature. I do not find anything, even the human thought of the Khojas that is so stagnant, is moving in its own way. It will get there. Maybe after I've gone. Somebody phoned me and said, I'm so sorry. I said, why? He said, they will sing your praise after you're dead. I said, that's reassuring. With a Fatiha, I hope. So, existence displays this fundamental property, a negational property. Nothing is stable. Everything is changing at every instance. You cannot put your finger on anything that's stable, it's gone. By the time you put your finger on it, it's something else. So it has a negational property. Nothing wants to be what it is in 2 given instances. Everything is changing, quickly changing. In reverse, it has another property of wanting to gather itself again, to fulfill itself. There are dialectics in existence. It wants to tear itself apart, and it wants to reassemble itself at every instance. It's amazing. This is the way the human communities also flow. Our intellectual evolution has been no different. As Hegel said, I think, there's thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Every time we try and gather something in a conceptual form, that, human beings cannot live in isolation of knowing. We cannot live in ignorance. So we have to make sense of things. Every time we make sense, somebody else comes and unravels it, finds fault with it. Then with new information, we make greater sense. From the Aristotelian understanding of the stagnant universe to the Newtonian universe of gravity. From that to Einsteinian universe that is very much more flexible. Every time we want to capture things notionally, to try and understand them. Then with further knowledge, it's unraveled. Then we form another synthesis. Then that goes through the same process. Everything is on the move. But in trying to dismantle itself, it always tries to reassemble itself. It's amazing. That's what existence does all the time. So the existential property is what? One of growth. And growth is the only salient thing. Within that, there are 2 things that are happening. There is negation and there's affirmation. Negation, that it wants to rid itself of whatever it has and reclaim itself at a more glorious level. So everything is moving in that way. Human being fundamentally has the same nature. From the Neolithic period to now. Imagine, from Stone Stone Ages till now. What have we done? We have evolved, constantly evolved. This evolution has retained this property of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Always. They always made sense of their universe, then somebody else tore it apart, and somebody else rebuilt it. And that's how evolution happens. Show me one area of human thought and human life in which we defy this property. In our economics, mode of society, governance, wherever you look, the same thing is happening again and again and again. If we have this understanding, then we will say that the human being has to, if the human being is of this nature, then anything that is productive at the level of human life has to fall in line with this particular property of growth. And with the property of growth, the dynamics of growth, that it is able to unravel itself and reassemble itself at all points. That's the fundamental property that a religion has to have if it is to be successful. Now I know your minds have already reached there, even before I say it to you, but I'm going to nonetheless elaborate because I've got 40 minutes. What else am I supposed to do? You're not going to ask any questions, are you? So I might as well keep on talking. Your minds have already gotten that he's going to say that religion should not be the same in two instances. Bravo, you've got it. Religion is not what we have understood of it at all. We have stagnated somewhere 1,400 years ago. The Christians 2,000 years ago. The Jews 2,500 years ago. Is my timeline accurate? The Hindus somewhere between there, and the Buddhists before that. We've all gotten stuck in certain eras due to the lack of our understanding. But then you're also saying, but if that's the case, then what is the salient property of religion that ensures growth? That must be the same? We'll say yes. That is absolutely the same. So here is how we want to discuss it. That religion has a form and religion has an essence. If the human beings are all following the same process of growth, then religions in their entirety is just one thing, the essence of growth. They only differ in the way in which they form themselves or reveal themselves. Now let us work into this. As human beings, we want to elaborate, we want to grow. What is the growth process of a human being? Let us work into this slowly so that the believer and the person who is a non-believer are both on the same page. What constitutes a human being's purpose? From the time of our existence on the face of this earth, as far as we can date back the human history, we have been intellectually and technologically been evolving, haven't we? We want to know things. We want to explore things. We want to exploit nature. So one thing is for sure, whether we like it or not, that human beings, even before they rationalize their own existence, they had this need to make sense of things. They felt this need to control their environment. This is what we've been displaying all along. We had to create crafts, and the oceans no longer defied us. We had to come up with agriculture. We had to create tools for more efficiency. We have always been conquering our surrounding, making it better, more conducive for us. And the only way we can do that is by understanding what is out there. To the extent that we will send manned missions one way to Mars, in which only the Maulana should go. What is the need to do that? Well, obviously, if the Maulanas are going to sit in the one-way Mars mission, we know why we should be doing it in any case. But God forbid if then they evolve there and 1,000 years later they come back with a vengeance. So, you might need to rethink that. We want to know the cosmic background effect of the universe from the time of the Big Bang. We want to know if there are parallel universes. We want to know the nature of multiverses. We want to know how the nature behaves at a quantum level, where it defies causation altogether. Why do we want to know? Why do we want to explore? Why do we want to reach out to the moon? Why do we want to conquer space? Why do we want to traverse from one galaxy to another, defying the speed of light by warping space or quantum entanglement? Why do we want to do these things? The future human will benefit from whatever we are doing now. We are hardwired. Even if somebody says, but what point is it for me to delve deep within the ocean and uncover its secrets when I've got enough for myself right now? The fact is that that is your purpose. You're hardwired to be inquisitive, to know, to explore, to fulfill your potential to its fullest at an intellectual level. And not only that, the future generations that will come will make use of your knowledge today, tomorrow. So the first thing we can't deny is that we have an intellectual purpose. We need to fulfill ourselves. We need to understand. We need to control. That's the first level. The second level of purpose, we say, well, yes, we're also seeing another level of purpose. We want to be virtuous. We want to be righteous. We want to be morally right. The popes led a crusade in the name of Jesus, who was the Lord of mercy. You cannot conduct a crusade in the name of Jesus, of all people. In the 21st century, the British public, who called themselves secular public, around 1.5 million of them marched in the streets of London protesting against our government for going to an unjust war with the Iraqis. Look at the shift within 1,000 years. Salahuddin leads an army to Jerusalem and conquers it in the name of God. Of course, a lot of blood flows in the name of God. Salahuddin was inside the walls of Jerusalem, and the Christian army with its king was outside the walls. Salahuddin was thinking of fleeing, and the Christian king, he had trouble back home, so he was thinking of leaving. Neither of them knew each other's intentions. If Salahuddin was such a godly warrior, he would have defended Jerusalem from the oncoming Christian soldiers and given his life to the blade. He was more interested in his own self. He was thinking of fleeing. And if that Christian king was indeed doing it in the name of God, then he should have continued the onslaught, not go back to France or England or wherever he had come from. At that point, religion was driving the icons of religion into committing acts of ungodliness, aggression, transgression, murder in the name of God. Today's human, without that sense of God, upholds the rights of others who are seen as enemies. You see this? In the name of religion, we could kill. In the name of humanity, we will never allow unjust acts. What has happened? We have evolved morally. In the 70s, I remember, in the 80s, when there was a famine in Ethiopia, we said we need to collect money and donate to them. Many of the Muslims, I was a very young man at that point, many of the Muslims came in and they said, well, these are non-Muslims, how can you give them charity? At that point I was baffled, I was thinking, is this what religion teaches you? Or teaches us? Today, no Muslim will say that we have to only feed a Muslim mouth. We need to feed hungry people no matter where they are. That distinction has gone within 30 years. What are we doing? We are evolving morally. Can you not see this? In Africa, we used to segregate. There used to be an area for the Africans, and there used to be an area for us. I was very young, but I went back to Dar es Salaam recently, a few years ago, and I saw this. We are appalled by it. For them, it's morally fine. But for us, it is transgression against human dignity. We had biases of color, of gender, of race, religious biases. With the growth of humanity, they are fading away. In the name of religion, we introduced our moral biases. In the name of humanity, we are doing what religions could not do. Would you agree with that? The whole discussion and discourse of human rights, whereby the virtue of being human beings, we all enjoy certain rights, is an outcome of course, it's born through religion, but it's an outcome of secular thinking. Secularism is not all bad. I mean, there's one group of secularism that is anti-religious. In its formative sort of period, secularism was an alternative path to exploring the same truth. It wasn't anti-religious at that time, yes? It's just putting the baggage of religion to one side. So some of it is very, very good. So we have human rights. To the extent that we can go to war with a government that does not uphold the human rights of its own citizens. What did we do with Colonel Gaddafi? Although we were led into that war by false pretense. I mean, they were better off with Gaddafi than they are without Gaddafi, right? But our governments as well are not very honest. But at that point I commended that no, we should go and ensure the human rights of the people of Libya against their rulers. But after that, when we begin to learn more, we've been taken for a ride here. In any case, I'm talking about the essential point, that there is moral evolution. Morally, we are becoming refined. And we find the other position that is inconsistent with morality, an inconducive position within the soul. We will today not be able to rest if our neighbors are not in a comfortable situation. If they are hungry, we will not be able to eat. Today we are coming of age where a child of another person is my child. Where an old person is my father or my mother. Another individual is my brother or my sister. We are no longer bound by that animalistic, material, selfish thinking that my family is my herd and I have to protect them against everybody else, whether right or wrong. We are letting it go. We are saying, no, it's one big human family. If that child is starving, my child is starving. I need to share. So the second level of fulfillment is the moral, virtuous fulfillment. Human nobility is such that it wants to be a dignified, righteous, virtuous person. On a side note, what a great shame that the Ayatollahs and the popes and the Aga Khans and the Dalai Lamas will not come together on the basis of explaining human virtues to humanity. And when humanity reads about human virtues, they will say, well, there's no distinction between one from the other. They are the same people, just using different languages. That's the second level of evolution or fulfillment of purpose. What is the third level? Even after gaining so much mastery over the universe and our destiny, let's say we defied that altogether. We defied that. We become immortal beings. Let us say we become morally righteous and oriented people, absolutely good people. Does that yield satisfaction from within? The answer is, and the litmus test is, Do you find satisfied with your own existence? The answer is no. There has to be something more substantive and concrete. This is a discussion in the second sort of lecture of the book number 2, so this is a preview of that, right? We need a substantive level of existence. The intellectual evolution and fulfillment of purpose, the moral purpose, it still seems superficial. It doesn't seem that I am there. The real calling from within is a deep calling, that I need to find my own self. Who am I? What am I all about? I need that deep-seated existence. Think about this carefully. Even after being so charitable, we are insecure. Isn't that the case? When the crushing pain comes upon our chest, we become bewildered and lose our composure. When we face a turbulent situation, it reveals a very weak, ungrounded person from within, doesn't it? Look at my calm and composure and confidence right now. But put me in hunger and thirst, and then see where that composure goes. Then see where that moral being goes. Fine. I am refined to that level of morality, where I can bear hunger. Put me in a turbulent situation in which I panic and then see where is that person. It seems as if the inner being remains unclaimed. The third level of purpose is the absolute purpose. That finding of the self and attaching it to a deeper sense of existence. This is the level of fulfillment that is found within religion in essence. What religion does in essence is that it connects the inner being with a loftier state of existence. It says to the human being, potentially, you are the most beautiful, the most splendid, the most complete, the most noble from within yourself. You are the one who needs to become that substantively from within yourself. You see these great prophets and saints, they are not only moral people, there is something else about them. There is divinity about them. By divinity, I don't necessarily mean what the religions talk about. I'm talking about the emergence of their godly light from within themselves. The way in which they embrace God. And God begins to overwhelm them from within and emerge through their beings. Not only will they speak the truth, but they will speak the truth with an air of contentment. You will find them speaking, but it's accompanied by deep silence. You find them in a state of turbulence around them, and they have the ability to calm it down through their mere and sheer presence. That level of fulfillment is something that we all call for from within ourselves. That cannot come save by becoming centered with the divine. Now, we don't have the time to discuss the nature of God, but we can say this much, that we become God-like by surrender to God. So in that light now, what does religion do? Religion has to fulfill this level of growth, the intimate level of wanting, the moral level and the intellectual level. Now let us see. When the Prophet of Islam came to the people, they had no sense of virtues or morality. They were backward people confined to the sands of Arabia. Superstitious people who worshipped numerous gods. What did he do? He said, no. You have the ability to change your destiny and to carve your own destiny as and how you like. The stars that you worship, they worship you. The oceans that you venerate are surrendered to you. You are superior to all of it. It's all yours. Go and claim it. What did the Prophet do? He said, belong to Allah. Allah empowers you and gives you control over your destiny. Break every boundary, every restriction. Nomadic people within no time were conquering the waves. Greatest scientists. Brilliant people. Look at what they did. Religion came. What did it do? It did one thing only at that level. It broke all boundaries. It said to them, the universe is yours. Take it. Do you not see the bees? Do you not see the birds? Do you not see the mountains? Do you not see the oceans? Do you not see the stars? Contemplate, reflect. The people who are so centered on daily life in Arabia, their horizons are open. Look at the stars instead. Explore the oceans. Look at nature. Contemplate. At the level of morality, he came and he told them, your nobility is beyond this. He awoke their nobility. Your nobility is beyond this. You cannot bury a person. You cannot lie. Your God will give you what is due to you. So morally he refined them. But he did not do any of those things. Essentially, he only did one thing. Think about this. With the current communities of ours, Muslim, Christians, whatnot, one little change takes years to bring. Yes? It takes years to bring one little change. After 30 years, nobody's going to fast for 20 hours. For them, it will be a given. Yes? Every little change takes years to bring in. The Prophet could not have shifted the paradigm by teaching them every little thing. He looked at the mammoth task in front of him, but he looked at the core and he saw that one vital element that he had to change. He changed that and the rest fell in place. Inwardly, he turned them to God, where God was the pinnacle of success. Whatever they could aspire to, and someone with whom they had true intimate belonging and they could trust with their selves. He addressed that and the rest of it fell in place. So what is religion, therefore? Religion has an